They laughed the moment he stepped onto the firing line. The man in parade-bright boots and white gloves, still scented with Brasso and Palace gun oil, looked like a misplaced actor from a tourist postcard. His rifle case was sun-bleached canvas, not carbon fiber, and when he unboxed a plain-issue L85A2, he wrapped his hands around it in a grip. No YouTube tutorial would endorse thumb riding too high. Support palm pressed flat and low. Phones tilted eagerly toward the anticipated train wreck while Cameron Deal, ex-contractor, current algorithm king, spun commentary about ceremonial soldiers who couldn't hit paper at breathing distance. Yet the newcomer's eyes never left the wind flags. No boast, no retort. Only the quiet metronomic inhale of someone who had once learned that oxygen and seconds are currencies spent with care. Thank you for choosing my video among thousands of videos out there to watch. Helping me with a subscription of yours is very small, but very big and too valuable. In that hush before the first shot, a veteran on the bench frowned because posture like that, wrong or not, belonged to men who'd practiced where missing meant someone else bled. The Sussex countryside wore a last shimmer of summer light, a warm honey that made ordinary hills look mythic. Down a rutted track between blackberry thickets, squatted Hawkesbury Range brick tin roof and the permanent scent of hot brass. Here voices stayed low, and reputations were gauged by knot-tight clusters on distant steel. Mud-caked Land Rovers filled the gravel tires, speaking of farm lanes rather than motorways. Inside 6 battered firing lanes stretched like naviles toward chalk hills, red safety flags flicking in the crosswind. Into this hush walked Lance Sergeant Felix Ward Boots. Mirror-bright white gloves folded in his belt, the faint perfume of Brasso still clinging to the dark tunic slung over his arm. 2 hours earlier, he had been a palace statue staring past selfie sticks, but the footpath from the station curved past the range gate, and habit not plan had made him pause. The range officer, a silver-haired man whose bearing said ex-artillery, looked up from a clipboard and, seeing the military ID, merely nodded. Ward signed the logbook with neat, unadorned letters, F. Ward Armed Forces. He carried a sun-bleached canvas rifle case, the kind bought before tactical chic existed, and laid it upon the bench as though depositing a toolbox. Nothing to prove, nothing to advertise. Phone screens tilted his way the moment the plain L85A2 emerged, stock-worn smooth by real weather, not YouTube backdrops. Across the room, Cameron Deal, a contractor turned influencer, whose matte black carbine cost a month's wages, noticed the new arrival and smelled content. Deal's followers clustered half in person and half through live stream, eager for any contrast that would feed the algorithm. What they saw was a quiet guardsman in parade shoes lifting a regulation rifle with what looked to them like a mistake of a grip, thumb too high, support hand too flat. Laughter flickered, soft but sharp, the sound of people convinced they already understood the ending. Ward eyes on the wind flags outside seemed not to hear it all. Cameron Deal thrived on that crackle of shared derision. He squared his shoulders at lane 3, rifle bristling with thermal glass and laser-tape suppressor etched with his channel logo. "That, lads, is what ceremonial drill does to your fundamentals," he announced loud enough for every phone mic. A circle of teenagers and wannabe contractors chuckled and filmed. Deal rattled off a 3-round group at 200 meters, respectable, yet drifting, then narrated his own perfection. Meanwhile, Ward occupied lane 6 at the far end, shadowed by the tin roof. He removed his tunic with ritual precision, folded it twice so edges kissed, and laid it beside a neat row of magazines. No bipod, no titanium bolt, only a coil of boar snake and a bottle of CLP aligned like parade markers. His grip, the thing inviting mockery, settled naturally, joints taut by years of necessity rather than doctrine. A youth whispered, "That's not how the manual shows it," and others nodded, convinced expertise came in thumbnails. Ward's breathing slowed, shoulders melted as the sight picture swallowed his world. Deal sensed attention, sliding away, and raised his volume. "Oi, Palace Guard, you want a lesson in modern gunfighting?" The range officer's eyebrow climbed, yet Ward merely flicked the safety on, then off a check smaller than a blink. Gareth Whitman, ex-Royal Artillery, recognized that motion. Hellman had taught him what came after. Ward adjusted the rear sight, a single click read the shimmer of mirage, and chose the 300-meter gong farther than anyone had tried that day. Deal smirked, phones lifted, and the air thickened with cheap bravado and the sharp scent of propellant. Some of the younger shooters exchange bets in murmurs. 5 quid says the tourist misses paper 10 if he actually fires. One lad zoomed his phone camera framing Ward like a meme in the making, already scripting captions about ceremonial cosplay. Even the brass buckets seemed to wait half full and cooling for the inevitable embarrassment. A hush gathered thin at first, then spreading like the pause before thunder. Ward exhaled once a long, even thread and pressed the trigger. The L-85 cracked sharper than the suppressed gadgets further down the line, and a half-second later, the 300-meter gong answered with a bell-pure ring. Silence flooded behind the sound, as though the entire shed had inhaled with him and forgotten to breathe out. He worked the action, settled, fired again. Same note, same center. 12 measured seconds separated each shot, amongst metronome, breathe, focus, press cycle. By the 5th impact, the only thing moving on the range were phone lenses refocusing, deals included now trembling slightly. Whitman walked the firing points, eyes narrowing with each perfect clang. 10 rounds, 10 identical strikes. The final shot sounded like punctuation. Ward safed the rifle and set it down with the careful respect a carpenter gives a chisel. Only then did the shed remember its voice, a low ripple of disbelief rolling through concrete and tin. Whitman retrieved the target and held it up one ragged hole you could cap with a thumb. 1 centimeter spread at 300 meters iron sights, he announced, tone flat. A collective intake of air followed the sonic opposite of laughter. Deal opened his mouth, searching for a quip, found none, and closed it again. A lad in a hoodie lowered his phone and whispered almost reverently, "That grip wasn't wrong. It was different." Whitman caught Ward's eye. "You serving Son Royal Regiment of Scotland," Ward answered, neither proud nor shy. "Learned that hold north of the border." Not there, the 2 words carried whole classified chapters. Recognition lit veteran faces around the room like slow dawn. This was a man who had shot where steel was not the target, but the consequence. Deal finally managed. "Solid range work, mate, but field conditions are—" "That was field," murmured the gray-haired sailor on the bench, voice calm as tidewater. Ward began cleaning his rifle motions clockwork, exact, while questions and compliments ricocheted off him without purchase. He zipped the old canvas case, slung his kit, and nodded a farewell that was somehow both polite and final. As he stepped into the cooling evening, the range felt altered, its air replaced by a quieter, heavier respect. Phones that had sought ridicule now replayed lesson footage. The most dangerous man in the shed had never raised his voice. He'd simply let truth travel at 940 meters per second. The rusted gate creaks shut behind Ward, and the late sun has slid to a copper coin on the hedge line when Gareth Whitman catches up. Heading toward Petersfield, he asks, matching the guardsman's measured stride. Ward nods. Whitman gestures with the barrel of his thermos mug toward a footpath curling past harvested fields. There's the King's Head, half a mile on proper pint-no live stream. The invitation is understated, but weighted with veteran code conversation offered, not demanded. Ward considers, then shifts his canvas case to his other shoulder. Sounds better than the next train wait. Gravel crunches under boots as they walk, silence, thick yet comfortable, punctured only by rooks arguing in the oak tops and the distant metallic echo of fresh volleys behind them. Whitman breaks the quiet first. "Haven't seen grouping like that since Afghanistan, and that chap was SBS." Ward's reply is a mild SBS shoot straighter than we do. The implied "we" hangs in the air like contrails. Whitman reads it, nods once, says no more. At the stile, a teenager from the range jogs breathlessly up, cheeks, flushed phone, now tucked away. "Sergeant, sorry, just wanted to say thanks. I never knew grip could be individual." He stammers out honesty that embarrasses him, then thrusts a folded $5 forward. "Want to bet off my mate because of you by your first round." Ward's eyebrow tilts. He accepts the note as gracefully as a medal, tucking it into a pocket so the lad can retreat with dignity intact. 2 fields later, an elderly man leans on a shepherd's crook by the fence. He'd watched from the sidelines, eyes bright behind cataract lenses. "Guardsman," he calls, voice crisp as frost. "My grandson starts with the paras next month. You showed what quiet men can do. I'll tell him that when flash meets skill, skill wins." Ward answers with a simple, "He'll be in good company, sir," and the old soldier touches 2 fingers to an invisible cap. The moment passes. Twilight gathers, a scent of rain drifts up from the west. By the time the pub's lantern sign swings into view, both men have spoken fewer than 50 words, yet the respect between them feels ironclad, forged in the knowledge that competence rarely needs commentary. The king's head is half timber, half candle glow, the ceiling so low Whitman instinctively ducks. Wooden floors whisper generations of bootsteps, hops and fireplace smoke braid the air. Ward chooses a corner table where he can see door and bar in a single glance, habit more than paranoia. Pints arrive amber bitter for Whitman, dark mild for Ward, purchased with the bent fiver. Conversation starts technical. Wynn calls mirage the myth that a heavier trigger precludes precision. Words settle into deeper channels, rotations in Hellman, the uncanny silence just before first light, the price of missing when coordinates are wrong. The pub crowd is sparse, two farmers discussing diesel costs, a pair of cyclists tracing tomorrow's route, and at the dartboard, a woman who eyes Ward's parade boots with interest, but leaves him undisturbed. Now and then someone recognizes the scarlet tunic folded on the bench and drifts over with respectful curiosity. Ward answers politely yet vaguely, a masterclass in revealing nothing classified. The village constable drops in for his nightly half-pint, listens, then remarks, "Funny how the loudest shooters online can't hush a room like you did." Ward merely tips his glass. Conversation edges to philosophy. Whitman muses that modern life prizes spectacle over substance, that algorithms crown whoever shouts first, not best. Ward counters gently. Spectacle fades, results endure. A subtle ripple of agreement travels the room, as though the beams themselves have heard a universal truth. Near closing time, the door opens, and, improbably, Cameron Deal enters minus entourage, face cooled of its earlier sheen. He approaches the table, equipment-free, hat in hand. "Needed to say I was wrong," he admits, voice pitched only for them. "Your 10 shots taught more than my channel ever will." Ward studies him, sees genuine contrition, and extends a handshake. "Deal. Parts lighter, maybe wiser." The dart thrower watches him go, smiles, and resumes her game. Last orders, bell rings, but landlord nudges their glasses for a quiet refill. Some silences rate another round. Midnight finds the two men outside beneath a sky rinsed clean by brief rain stars burning hard above the downs. Whitman, warmth of ale in his voice, offers a spare room over his garage. Ward declines with thanks duty calls at 0600. They part at the road junction, handshake brief, but certain. Whitman's final words hang on the cool air. World needs reminders that mastery whispers. Ward's walk to the station is solitary, but not lonely. Echoes of steel ring and respectful hush accompany him like distant drums. The 0042 to Waterloo is near empty, a commuter dozing over spreadsheets, a nurse sanding dried iodine from her knuckles, a student rereading footnotes by phone glow. Ward takes a window seat. Countryside rolls by in silvered negatives. In the glass, he sees only an unremarkable man in civvies hair flattened by drizzle boots now scuffed. The reflection pleases him. Tomorrow, the scarlet tunic and bearskin will transform that outline into living heritage. A photo prop for tourists who will never suspect that the soldier frozen beside them can thread bullets through 1 centimeter space at 300 meters, or that his supposedly wrong grip was forged alongside people who disappear from group photos as policy. He thinks of the teenager's awkward gratitude, of Deal's lowered voice, of the old man's message to his grandson, and feels a quiet click of balance restored. A station announcer murmurs destinations. Ward closes his eyes yet tracks every sound, a muscle memory of vigilance. At Victoria, he shoulders the kit melts into taxi headlights, and by 0210 he is polishing the brass buttons of a uniform that carries centuries of ceremony and concealed beneath the hard edge of unseen work. Dawn will bring selfie sticks, jokes about statues, perhaps a new viral clip mocking a stiff soldier who to ignorant eyes merely looks the part. Ward smiles at that thought. He is fluent in being underestimated. His rifle tomorrow will be ornamental, but the mindset behind the white glove salute remains calibrated to harsher landscapes where applause never comes. In those places, as on a humble Sussex range, competence is its own argument delivered at supersonic speed and measured in the stunned silence that follows. Dawn over London arrives pewter gray, the Thames breathing mist across stone lions and palace gates. At 0545, the guardroom hums with the soft percussion of bristle brushes on bearskins, brass buttons, pinging beneath polishing cloths. Lance Sergeant Felix Ward stands at his locker, movements economical despite 2 hours sleep. The whiff of CLP still rides the cuffs of his civilian coat now hanging to air. He buttons scarlet wool over a frame tuned by live fire, not parade drills. Corporal of the Horse does inspection eyes sliding across uniforms, noting nothing amiss. Yet when he pauses at Ward, the faintest nod registers a private salute between professionals who recognize when a man has already fought today's battle elsewhere. 0700 forecourt tourists surge like a slow-tide selfie stick spearing the morning light. From his sentry box, Ward reads micro wines off flags and distant chimneys out of habit. Muscle memory tallies trajectories no one here will ever feel. A school group approaches Chatterbright. One boy freckles camera hanging, freezes mid-stride, recognition blooming. It's the lad who offered the $5. He whispers to a friend, points subtly but obeys the signs, do not distract the guard. He does not test the statue with jokes or gestures. Instead, he snaps a single photo lens, trembling with newfound respect, then shepherds his mates on. Ward's gaze never flickers, yet clocks every detail. At 09:30, the changing begins. As drums roll, a tourist live streaming on the palace railings mutters, "These guys don't even carry real ammo." Somewhere in the crowd, the schoolboy mutters back, "Bet he shoots better than anyone you follow." The comment is lost under brass fanfare, but Ward senses a ripple subtle like pressure shift before weather turns. When his relief arrives, he marches off square-shouldered, the palace facade reflecting a man anonymous to history books, yet stitched into their binding. By noon, he is in barracks canteen stirring tea. An orderly passes him a phone. "You've gone viral, apparently." On screen loops a 10-second clip from Hawkesbury hiss of breath, crack of rifle steel, ringing. 10 million views caption, ceremonial soldier schools, YouTube expert. Ward taps the screen off pockets the device. Viral moments die as quickly as they flash. Discipline endures. Across Britain, algorithms churn. Forums dissect the mysterious grip veterans and comment sections trade respectful nods, while influencers scramble to upload reactions. Cameron Deal releases a somber 5-minute apology. No sponsorship plugs, no background music, just a man owning his ignorance. Subscriptions wobble, then surge. Humility, it turns out, also trends. At Hawkesbury, Gareth Whitman prints a still of Ward's one-intimity group and pins it above the safety notices with a Sharpie note, technique, matters attitude more. The teenagers return that weekend, thumbs low on screens, eyes high on wind flags. Phones stay pocketed until shot strings finish. One lad experiments with a flatter support hand, feels recoil soft and grins despite the bruising. Deal arrives quietly, sans entourage, borrows a stock L85 and submits to Whitman's coaching without a single monologue. Clips surface of him missing, correcting, missing less finely, striking steel. Each upload titled Learning Not Performing. Meanwhile, defense social media monitors file a bland report. Guardsman Ward incident, not security sensitive. No action. Bureaucracy satisfied, the clip remains online. In mess halls from Brecon to Lossiemouth, muttered wagers circulate about the shooter's true unit. SBS SRR. No one knows, and the silence grows its own aura. Ward himself avoids the internet swirl. Instead, on Thursday evening, he sits in a small armory classroom mentoring 2 new recruits on cleaning protocols. He says little, but when a private fumbles the spring, Ward catches it midair without glancing. Shocked gratitude widens the recruit's eyes. Ward simply continues the lesson example delivered at the speed of gravity. Weeks pass. Autumn bleeds rust into St. James's Park, conkers thump onto lawns, and the Hawkesbury clip settles into the digital sediment where myths ferment. An editor from a glossy magazine requests an interview. The regiment declines on Ward's behalf. Mystique unchallenged, the story mutates in retellings. Some say he shot standing, others claim 500 meters. Ward hears fragments on patrol and lets them drift by like leaves in the ornamental pond outside Horse Guards. Late October grants him 3 days leave. He spends them walking the South Downs way with a map, a flask, and silence, trading salutes with dog walkers who never guess his name. On the final afternoon, he detours to Hawkesbury. Whitman spots him, first gestures to lane 6 already prepped. Ward shakes his head, smiles. Only here to return a debt. From his pack, he produces a new wind flag stitched by a palace tailor, scarlet cloth edged navy, the range crest embroidered. He plants it by the targets where gusts will read clearer for young eyes. A gift, not a monument. That evening, the king's head fills with slow banter. Deal Whitman the sailor and a smatter of locals occupy mismatched chairs. Ward drinks water. Duty early tomorrow. Talk ranges from optics glare to the worth of silence. Before leaving, he addresses the group for the first time. If a technique works, keep it. If it doesn't, change it. The bullet doesn't care how famous you are. He steps into moonlit, chill boots muffled on leaf rot and heads for the station. Tomorrow will bring tourists flashbulbs, perhaps fresh scoffs at immobile soldiers. He will answer none of it, only stand his post rifle grounded, gaze fixed beyond visible threats. Somewhere out there, a steel plate still rings in memory, a quiet bell reminding those who heard that competence seldom raises its voice. Early November slips into London like a cold breath frost, feathering the palace lawns, while poppies bloom on lapels. Remembrance Sunday summons ranks of scarlet and naval blue to Whitehall, the air swollen with bugle notes and BBC cameras. Lance Sergeant Felix Ward stands in the second file, chin-nailed level rifle gleaming beneath brittle sunlight. Across the barrier, 100 lenses drink the tableau, but one pair of eyes is fixed, not filming a thin man in a surplus parka, mumbling as he fingers a crumpled flyer. Ward feels the prickle of misaligned intent, micro tremors in posture, the way the man's gaze needles through the gaps between guards. Cenotaph silence descends. 2 minutes stretch like glass. When the gun salute booms, the parka man lunges, swinging a bike chain weighted with the padlock toward a cluster of veterans in wheelchairs. Spectators gasp. Security hesitates, boxed by crowd density. Ward is already moving, rifle slanted, but muzzle-down boots cutting diagonally across parade lines with terrifying economy. He pivots, intercepts the chain, mid-arc with the steel butt plate. The sound is dull, decisive, nothing like Hollywood. The assailant crumples hands, zip-tied by a police constable who finally elbows through. Cameras late to the real show whirl and click. Ward returns to formation before the echo of the last post fades blood quick under the brass shell of ceremony, but expressions still marble calm. Only those nearest saw the intervention. To viewers at home, it's a minor scuffle swiftly cut from broadcast. Yet among the ranks, whispers ripple, palace statue. Not likely. After dismissal, a young private blurts, "Sarge, how'd you react so fast?" Ward studies the lad's two wide eyes and answers the way the Downs answer, wind-soft. Unsentimental timing is practice, paying attention. That evening, the regimental adjutant drafts commendations. Ward asks that his name stay off the paperwork, citing unit policy. The captain frowns, understanding more than protocol allows, and files the report under general security incident resolved without casualty. Somewhere online, grainy phone footage surfaces a guardsman stepping out of stillness, like a shutter click and ending violence before it begins. Comments clash, staged hero, but the clip sputters, overshadowed by pundits arguing about parade safety. Ward, polishing boots for Monday guard, lets the noise flow past. History chalks quiet marks with invisible ink. He is content to keep the pen. Fog wraps the Thames 3 mornings later, when Ward is summoned to Horse Guards for an informal debrief. The room smells of coffee gone cold and map varnish. 3 officers from disparate branches sit behind a scattered sheaf of stills pulled from security feeds. A Royal Marine colonel taps the print where Ward blocks the chain. "We clocked your movement at 0.6 seconds from lunge to intercept numbers we associate with men who train outside infantry syllabus." The statement invites confession. Ward offers none, simply confirms adherence to rules of engagement. The RAF wing commander slides forward a sealed envelope, a commendation for bravery in aid of veterans. Ward's refusal is polite, but unwavering praise belongs to the regiment, not the man. After a pause, the colonel folds the document back into his folder with a thin smile. Records will note the award recipient, anonymous citation redacted. Protocol satisfied, conversation shifts. The wing commander asks if Ward might contribute to a cross-service marksmanship symposium. Nothing classified, sergeant, just fundamentals for the next crop of instructors. Ward agrees on one condition: no cameras, no social tags. 2 weeks later, in a drafty hall at Sandhurst, 20 NCOs from Rifles, Marines, and Air Force Police watch a guardsman dissect recoil management with chalk and calm. He passes around his battered L85, invites them to mimic the much-debated grip, then walks the range as they replicate his cadence. Targets tighten, egos loosen. A para questions whether the hold will translate to kinetic environments. Ward answers with a story stripped of names about crosswinds screaming through mountain passes, and the way small bones learn to shape a weapon when manuals freeze in gloved hands. Not a single phone records the tale. Agreement is sealed by handshake and cordite fumes. That night, a Marine corporal emails Whitman, "Your quiet Scotsman just schooled half of defense." Whitman replies with a JPEG of the embroidered wind flag fluttering crimson at Hawkesbury caption, "Tools matter, attitude more." The thread ends there, an invisible chain linking Sussex Mud Palace paving stones in whatever ranges tomorrow's fights will draw. Spring edges the city a year later, when a letter arrives at barracks addressed to the guardsman who shoots straight. Inside, neat cadet handwriting recounts a 1st Airborne qualification jump and cites Ward's Hawkesbury clip as spur when confidence wavered. Quiet is stronger than noise. The cadet signs off Paracat badge sketched in the margin. Ward tucks the note in a drawer with 2 others, one from the teenager who paid the $5 now accepted into Sandhurst, and another from Cameron Deal reporting his channel pivoted to learn with me content and is thriving. Influence without posturing, proof that trajectories can bend. On a late May evening, Ward strolls the mall off-duty tourist crush thick. A family requests directions. The mother notices the poppy pin, thanks him for service, oblivious to the rest. He watches them drift away, children chasing an ice cream bike, and feels an unexpected ease, the equilibrium between public face and private edge holding steady. Overhead RAF trainers carve lazy loops, rehearsing for trooping the color. Ward considers tomorrow's rehearsal hours of absolute stillness beneath summer sun and realizes he's looking forward to it. Stillness he knows now is not the opposite of action, but its reservoir. Every second he stands motionless is a chambered round of potential unseen yet decisive. Somewhere across the river, Whitman preps firing points for a charity shoot. The scarlet wind flag snaps, signaling precise gusts to any who understand its language. Beyond teenagers, he once humbled lineup with borrowed rifles, adjusting grips that feel awkward, but soon will feel inevitable. And on a palace parapet, as evening guns salute, a guardsman lifts a hand to his bearskin in a rehearsed perfect arc. Salute turns semaphore to the few who can read between inches, then goes still, a living monument to the truth learned on dusty ranges and polished cobbles alike. Competence is the quietest sound in any room, yet it echoes the longest. Trooping the color arrives beneath a cobalt June sky, flag snapping, cavalry gleaming, the Queen's successor, watching from Horse Guard's balcony. The scarlet rectangles of the household division march like a living mosaic. Ward, buried somewhere in the right flank, feels sweat bead under bearskin, but notes wind vectors out of reflex. Mid-ceremony, a quad-rotor drone slips the exclusion net, whirring over St. James's Park, payload indistinct. Crowd murmurs, camera rigs pivot skyward, security radios crackle, too late formation discipline pins every guardsman in place except Ward's left eye tracing trajectory. On beat 13 of the drum roll, he calculates drift weight battery sag. 2 rows behind him stands Grenadier Sergeant Singh on bayonet duty and a former decathlete. Ward whispers, breath not word, just enough for Singh to read intent. Next drumbeat, Singh pivots, launches his pike-length rifle like a javelin. Steel lances, carbon fiber. Drone cartwheels, payload plopping harmlessly into the ornamental lake. From the reviewing stand, a single eyebrow lifts. Elsewhere, social feeds explode. Public sees only a guardsman who flinched stylishly, commentary divided between choreography praise and conspiracy whimsy. Inside the secure tent, military police replay slow motion. Ward and Singh stand at ease, while analysts confirm the drone carried dye packs meant to splatter uniforms green for a stunt channel. The brigadier in charge signs off no commendations, no media brief, incident categorized as maintaining public order. After dismissal, Ward and Singh eat sandwiches on a barracks step, grease-proof paper, snapping in post-pageantry, quiet. Always wondered, Singh says between bites, how you spot trouble before it's trouble. Ward sips water. Look for what doesn't match the rehearsal. He answers words as economical as his trigger press. That night, memes circulate of a rifle skewering a drone. No one identifies the thrower, and the internet decides anonymous heroics are double plus marketable. Ward scrolls, once chuckles at a caption, Buckingham shish kebab, and powers the phone off. Tomorrow he is range coach for cadets. Measuring angles takes precedence over measuring likes. Autumn drifts golden across Salisbury Plain when Ward receives a brown envelope marked Temporary Duty Opseer. Inside, orders to augment a composite sniper symposium in Norway, Arctic acclimatization, live fire over fjords at 1,200 meters. He packs without fuss. The battered L-85 stays home, replaced by an Accuracy International system lashed with camo tape. In Tromsø, the light never fully dies, and Ward discovers the clean surgical joy of cold, thin air that turns sound into glass. Delegates from 8 nations arrive, some bristling with laser-ranged toys, others hungover from travel. Ward's reputation precedes him, now transmitted through hushes and forum whispers. Instructors angle to partner with him, hoping to steal the grip secret. He obliges none of the hype, but on the first shoot, he prints a 10-round knot, the diameter of a crone at 900 millimeters, then calmly dismantles his rifle and notes barometric pressure for the next serial. A U.S. Ranger captain approaches, asks whether the famous hands-high hold scales to magnum calibers. Ward demonstrates 2 shots, 2 dings on a glacier-white plate, then guides the captain's thumbs into position. By sunset, half the cohort are experimenting. Some curse new muscle tension, some grin like children who found cheat codes. Evening debrief around a pot-bellied stove turns philosophical. What is doctrine but yesterday's best guess? Ward in knit cap and steaming coffee says doctrine begins as adaptation. The smart part is remembering it can adapt again. A Finnish sergeant nods, scribbles the line into a notebook titled Field Truths. End of course certificates arrive. Ward's is signed but misplaced in transit, a logistical oversight that somehow feels correct. He boards the military flight home carrying only frostburnt cheeks and a sat phone message: Gareth Whitman has entered hospice cancer, quick and unforgiving. Ward's thumbs find that they are gripping the armrests exactly as they grip a rifle, higher than textbook, perfectly steady. 2 weeks later, Sussex offers a last blaze of copper leaves when Ward walks the path to Hawkesbury one final time. The range is officially closed for refit, but a caretaker unlocks the gate at his knock. Whitman waits in a wheelchair and Lane 6 blanket over knees, wind flag Ward gifted, snapping crimson behind him. Chemo has paired the old soldier to wire, and will yet his eyes still measure things in minute of angle. No words waste breath. Ward assembles the old L-85, lays out a single magazine. Whitman gestures toward the rebuilt 300 gong, newly painted white. Ring it once for me, lad. Ward shoulders the rifle, finds the cheek weld that history once mocked, and fires. Steel sings across the empty valley, pure as chapel glass. Whitman exhales a long sound like relief, and the caretaker quietly wheels him back toward the car. Ward stays, polices his lone brass, then plants the cartridge upright on the bench, a headstone for noise. A month later, after the funeral, with its tasteful volley and sparse attendance, a parcel arrives at Horse Guards. Inside Whitman's range ledger pages, Fox's last column annotated only twice F Ward, and beneath it, in shaky pen, competence equals quiet X repetition. There is also the drone-skewered rifle tip polished and mounted on oak, with a plaque that reads simply, for the man who didn't need an audience. Ward places both items in the regiment's library, where young guardsmen practice silent drill, no explanatory caption required. Years glide. Crowds and monarchs change, algorithms mutate. But somewhere on distant ranges, recruits still argue over grips until an instructor murmurs a Sussex story that ends in measured rings of steel. And on countless mornings, a middle-aged color sergeant stands perfectly motionless outside royal gates. Boots, mirror-bright rifle, ceremonial eyes mapping wind's ears, sieving threat from tourist chatter, ready should spectacle ever outweigh safety to let necessity rewrite the manual again. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Your support truly means the world to me. If this video brought you value or resonated with you in any way, feel free to leave a little comment or hit subscribe so we can keep sharing more moments together. See you in the next one.